You know, when we talk about gaming, we're usually all about the gameplay, the graphics, the story, but today, we're going to follow the money. We're diving deep into how just a handful of massive blockbuster games are about to trigger a huge flow of capital across the entire global economy. Let's get right into it.
So get this. In the very specific economic climate of 2026, dropping a huge AAA game is more than just a launch. It's a massive financial catalyst. We're talking about an event that can move billions of dollars across the NASDAQ and the Tokyo Stock Exchange. And you better believe the analysts on Wall Street are watching these releases with the same intensity they'd give a blockbuster IPO.
All right, here's our game plan. First, we'll hit the big picture, the 2026 Super Upgrade Cycle. Then, we're going to zoom in on 3 specific Japanese games that are, for all intents and purposes, technological time bombs. After that, we'll pull back the curtain on the hidden AI engine that's driving all of this, and we'll finish up with a really crucial piece of strategic advice for you. Okay, let's kick things off. 2026 is shaping up to be a major turning point. See, the relentless demand from us gamers has slammed right into the insatiable needs of artificial intelligence. And that collision, it's forcing a hardware upgrade cycle on a scale we have just never seen before. Now, what's so fascinating here is how this chart really breaks down the cause and effect. This isn't just guesswork, it's all data-driven. Just look at that top row. The need for photorealistic 4K, even 8K textures puts this incredible strain on current tech. And who benefits directly? Well, Nvidia, Micron, and Samsung, of course. The market impact? Extremely high. You can literally draw a straight line from a game's graphics to a big boost in these tech stocks.
So, this is the absolute key takeaway. We've seen a fundamental shift in the market. I mean, just a few years ago, having a top-of-the-line graphics card was a luxury, right? A cool thing for enthusiasts. Today, it is an absolute prerequisite. You literally need it just to boot up the biggest games of the year. And that new reality, that necessity, is the rocket fuel that's launching Nvidia and AMD straight into the stratosphere.
Let's pivot to our first case study to see how this all plays out. We're talking about Nioh 3. And listen, this isn't just another game. Think of it as a golden benchmark, a live stress test designed to push the absolute limits of the newest silicon out there. So the entire game engine is built around one incredibly demanding idea: dynamic, destructible environments. I mean, in the old games, you were just fighting demons. In this one, every single swing of your sword shatters a bamboo fence, it changes the wind currents, and it generates these ridiculously complex physics simulations, all in real time.
Now, trying to process that insane amount of physics data at a steady 60 frames per second, let alone the 120 they're targeting, is basically impossible for most hardware. But this is where AMD steps in. Nioh 3 has been built from the ground up for this insane synergy with AMD's RDNA 5, which just so happens to be the beating heart of the PS5 Pro Max. A smooth launch for this one game, it directly translates into billions of dollars for both Sony and AMD.
Next up, we've got Capcom's Royal Flush, Resident Evil Requiem. Now, the strategy here isn't just about pretty graphics. Oh no, it's about using something way more primal to kickstart the entire virtual reality market. Pure, raw, unadulterated fear. The magic words here are spatial, immersive horror. Capcom has literally designed this game for deep, native integration with platforms like the PSVR 3 and the Apple Vision Pro. The entire goal is to make you feel physically, truly surrounded by terror. And in doing so, they're going to prove that A+ software can sell prohibitively expensive hardware. And the hardware requirements to pull this off are just brutal. I mean, to stop you from getting motion sick, the game has to render 2 separate 4K images at over 90 frames per second. This is the kind of thing that pushes flagship GPUs to their absolute thermal and performance limits. A successful launch here is going to create a massive explosion in demand for Micro-OLED displays and advanced lenses, sending profits through the roof for suppliers all across East Asia. For our third case study, we are shifting focus to the absolute beating heart of the Japanese domestic economy. Square Enix's Dragon Quest VII Remake isn't a tech demo, it's a full-blown cultural phenomenon that has the power to act like a defibrillator for the entire Tokyo Stock Exchange.
You have to understand, in Japan, Dragon Quest is way more than a game. It's a social institution. Its release is being surgically timed to hit right alongside the launch of the Nintendo Switch 2. See, Nintendo needs what they call a megaton gravity force to anchor its new console, and this remake, which is seen as an absolute safe bet by investors, is it.
Experts are projecting that this synergy is going to drive over 15 million console sales in the first week. The first week.
This isn't just going to pin Nintendo's stock back to its highest peaks, it's going to be a total defibrillator for Square Enix after some of their recent missteps.
But wait, this whole story doesn't just end with what's happening on your console or your PC. Oh no, there is a secret, third dimension to this supercycle. A hidden economic engine that has completely hijacked the attention of Wall Street's sharpest analysts, generative AI.
We are finally moving beyond the era of those stiff, pre-scripted characters with a handful of lines. The NPCs in 2026's biggest games? They're going to actively listen to you, understand the context of what you're saying, and generate brand new, spontaneous dialogue. The raw computational math for this is just way too heavy for a local console to handle. So all that heavy lifting gets offloaded to these massive cloud server farms. In this slide, it just perfectly shows this relentless economic feedback loop. It starts with you, the gamer, just talking to a character. That single conversation forces Amazon and Microsoft servers to work overtime. Then, to meet all that new demand, they have to reinvest billions by buying more server racks from, you guessed it, Nvidia and AMD. Your gameplay is directly fueling their bottom line. It's wild. So, after all that, what does this actually mean for you? Well, it means that as a modern gamer, you're not just a consumer anymore. Whether you know it or not, you are an active participant, basically allocating capital into the most complex hardware and software pipelines humanity has ever built.
And that brings us to the final actionable piece of advice from all this analysis. If you are planning on upgrading your hardware, you need to see the first half of 2026 as your golden window. Because later in the year, price wars, crushing demand from crypto miners and corporate data centers, all that hype is going to cause huge supply chain problems. The smart players, they secure their power before the horde breaches the gate.
Which really leaves us with one last provocative question to think about. As every single frame you render and every conversation you have with an NPC echoes across the trading dashboards of Wall Street, Tokyo, and Silicon Valley, when you buy your next game, are you simply a player or are you now an investor?